Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Military Spouse to Millionaire. Sadly, the weather is absolute shit outside right now, so we are back in the podcast room in a little bit of a more controlled environment. So, real talk, I have had the hardest time recording this episode. And I don't know why exactly that is. I have a very clear vision of what I want it to be, but I'm just really struggling with getting it into like cohesive thoughts that I think would be easily digestible to the public. So I apologize in advance if this episode is a little erratic or kind of a shit show, but I do think it's going to be a little bit of a departure from my normal podcast. It's still going to swing back and kind of tie into real estate, but I really have been having a lot of things come into my life lately that are specifically in the business owner space, the entrepreneurship space. I found out recently, about a week and a half ago, that I am the number 4 real estate agent in the state by units. So that was huge, and it was announced at a brokerage function that my company had. And it is such an immense honor to be ranked so high, but I want to talk a little bit about why I'm able to do the volume that I do. So last year, as an example, I took 3.5 months off work. So really, I only worked like 9 months of last year for a couple of different reasons. Our daughter was graduating high school. She went to basic training. She went to tech school. We, took family trips before she left. We went to go see her graduate from those things. We took a few solo vacations, living our best empty nester lives. Because we work for ourselves and run our own businesses, we have the luxury of being able to do that. We can talk about the pros and cons of business ownership and entrepreneurship certainly later in this episode. It does have pros and cons. It's not all pros. Sure, it's great that we can take those vacations, but we're still working during those vacations, and we're only able to do those things because we have the immense support of amazing teams, which again, we will talk about in a second. But the fact that I was able to take 3 months off work last year and still close about 71 transactions by myself. And what I mean by myself is some other real estate individuals at larger brokerages will have their team of agents closing real estate transactions in their name. So there might be like a team lead or a broker, and people under them close their transactions in that person's name. So that person obviously would be high up on a list like this, but essentially I don't have anybody else that closes transactions in my name. If a transaction closes in my name, it's because it is my transaction that I worked and was my deal. It was me on the client call. It was me house hunting. It was me that got them into contract. It was me that got the transaction to the finish line. Yes, with help from my team and support from my team, of course, but my team executing paperwork behind the scenes is vastly different than me, responding to comments on my social media and setting up client calls, having the client calls, setting people up in the MLS, answering their questions about housing for months and months before they get to this island, taking them out house hunting, getting them into contract, going through the whole contract process, and getting them to the finish line. Every single one of those 70 plus deals, I executed all of those steps for. That being said, I would not have the bandwidth to do that if it were not for the amazing people, most of whom are military, either prior military spouses, some who are even active duty currently. If it weren't for the people behind me who allow me to have the bandwidth to do the things that only I can do, my story would be vastly different. my numbers would be extremely diminished. If I was doing every single component of every single transaction, which I have done, I could probably get to about 30 to 35, maybe 40 deals a year, and I would be run ragged. I would literally have no time to do anything that is fulfilling to me on a personal level: baking, playing tennis, going for walks, playing with my French bulldog, like nothing. I would literally, and I know that because I have done that. My first year in real estate, I got to the point where I was managing about 7 or 8 transactions on my own, and literally at that time felt maxed out. And sure, I was newer to the industry then, and I might be more proficient now, but it is not reasonable to think that anybody can do the volume that I do and be doing 100% of everything alone. So I want to pull back the curtain a little bit on that. And I want to talk about this through the lens of entrepreneurship in general, because I think so many spouses out there see the vision, like you understand the assignment that entrepreneurship is maybe the way to go, right? I think we're in an era where people want to stop exchanging their time for money in the sense of working for somebody else, right? So entrepreneurship has now become something very prevalent and super trendy, and something that more people are getting into doing, especially military spouses, where we want something that we can take with us from duty station to duty station, something that we can feel like is ours and maybe contributes a little bit monetarily to our families and all of that sort of stuff. But where I see not only other real estate agents failing, because at this event, at this broker event where I got this award for being my company's top producer and my broker told me about my rankings, other agents started coming up to me and just asking me like how do you manage all this? Like what is your secret? What are your processes? Whatever, which I'm fine with sharing. I don't gatekeep, because quite frankly, I have given people, like agents that have come on board with me that say like, I want to hustle, I want to do this. I've given them all of my tools and resources, and most of them have failed because they don't have the hustle. They don't want to do what it takes to beat out or be better or be different than the other 15,000 real estate agents on this island. Because apparently that is the statistic that my broker gave at this event. It's 15,000 realtors, and I am number 4 by units. So that is an extremely amazing distinction. And I also, before anybody comes at me in the comments, I just want to put a disclaimer out there that I don't want to hear anybody making any comments about me being full of myself or bragging about this. I'm not throwing these numbers out there to be braggadocious, but I am definitely allowed to be proud of my achievements. And I do pride myself on being an authority in my industry, and I work immensely hard at that to have the reputation that I do, to get the referrals that I get, to have built this business over the last 8 years from nothing. And it's okay to be proud of your achievements. And I do want that message to go out to other entrepreneurs and other women, especially because I know in media, social media, societally, sometimes it can be a delicate dance. It can be a fine line to walk between having pride in our accomplishments and being viewed as, arrogant or full of ourselves or bragging. So I definitely am proud of myself, and I definitely feel like it's okay for me to share that with whomever and talk about it publicly. But I definitely don't want it to be, braggadocious. I am sharing it in the sense of, these are my statistics. So not only should you maybe listen up and hear what I have to say when it comes to real estate discussions, but in this context where I'm talking about being an entrepreneur, I always like to give the background and the information to tell you why you should be listening to me. Because like I said in my very first episode of this podcast, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. Why you should listen to mine is directly related to those statistics that I just mentioned, because I am ranked very high. I clearly know how to start and operate and grow a thriving business. Have I made mistakes along the way? Absolutely. Will I make other mistakes in the future? Probably. But it's not about never falling down. It's about how you get back up, put on your big girl panties, and keep moving forward. So, to that end, where I see a lot of agents failing, and this literally just happened with an agent that I was trying to take on because I needed some additional help with some things. She is a great agent. She does transactions. My broker spoke very highly of her. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give her a shot. Within 3 months, it absolutely failed. And we decided to go our separate ways. Professionally, there's no beef. Like, if I see her on the street, I would still wave and say hi. But her issue is that she is not able to, or willing, I guess, she's not willing to scale for growth. And what I mean by that is when I first started in real estate and I was just doing 1, 2, 3 transactions, obviously I could handle all of those things by myself. I didn't need to have a staff or a team like I do now. But as I got busier and busier and busier, I was like, oh shit, I can't go show houses. I can't have a client call. I can't do this or that, or, make podcast episodes because I'm so busy doing X, Y, and Z for all of these transactions that I'm currently in. So I took on, her name is Jenny White. She is my transaction manager for my sellers. At that time, which this was like 7 years ago, at that time, she was just my transaction manager for all of my transactions. So I started by myself, got busy, hit a wall, and I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I took on someone, and I gave that someone all of the transaction management stuff. So once they're in escrow, once a buyer is in contract, Jenny takes over and says, okay, I'm scheduling your home inspection. This is when it is. Okay, we go to the home inspection. I go to the home inspection, me and the buyer. We have the home inspection. We need to request some stuff be fixed. I send Jenny a text message. Jenny, for the Smith transaction, X, Y, and Z needs to be repaired. She drafts the paperwork. So I am still the client-facing portion of this process, and I always want that to be the case. But over the years, we have continued to grow. So I, grew and grew and grew and grew, and then was like, oh my God, okay, me and Jenny need help. And this was in 2020 when shit was like popping off in the real estate market. I had done 33 transactions, I believe, in 2018. I did about 46 transactions in 2019. Just me and Jenny, just me doing my thing, Jenny doing the transaction management stuff, just the two of us. 2020 hit. By July of 2020, I was like, okay, we've hit this wall again. We need help. But I had waited to the point where I was quite literally drowning. Like I was sun up to sundown, 6 a.m. to 11, 12 o'clock at night. I am working in some capacity because what you don't see behind the scenes and like the reality of entrepreneurship and I want military spouses to sound off in the comments for this podcast. Tell me, in your industry, in your world as an entrepreneur, what is something that you do that the client-facing portion of your business never sees? For me, it's printing out MLS sheets, making the showing requests, organizing the showing day. At that time, it was going to the store to get all the supplies for my client gift bag. Like there's a ton of things. Like I could just name thing after thing after thing. But what is it for your business? What is it that you do that behind the scenes that your clients would never even think of that you're doing? So I was just literally working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time, to the point where I was literally drowning. And I caution people to keep a close eye on your business and your business growth so that you can anticipate needing help in a very calculated way, because a mistake that I made in my business was waiting too long before I took on more help. And that led to me making sort of an impulsive knee jerk reaction and bringing on someone that 3 years later I then fired, because ultimately she didn't share my values or my vision for my company or the same level of client care that I think is the foundation of finding home. So that was something that it was a mistake that I made. I talk about it in episode 2 of this podcast if you want to go watch the full episode for more reference of what I'm talking about. But keep an eye on your business growth because scaling for growth is important, but making the right choices of who you choose to help you scale is also important. So I brought on this person, this business partner, I called her at the time. And then, we're going. And then we were like, Jesus, we need like a dedicated social media person. So we brought on a social media person, and then we're going. And social media person PCS'd. And then I got like a social media company, which I thought would be the right call because it's like an actual company instead of the other person was just like a military spouse. And, they moved. And then I was like, okay, well, if it's a company, I won't have to deal with that. But then the company didn't really get my brand and they only worked certain hours and they had all these holidays off. And, it's hard to find good help. It really is. Like scaling for growth sounds easy, but it's honestly so difficult, especially in an industry like mine where I am literally a 24/7 operation. I don't care if it's the nights, the weekends, the holidays. We are doing shit every day. So I say all of that to say that now in my business, after 8 years of doing this is the lay of the land. And this is great for anybody who's watching or listening to this that is a potential client, whether you're buying or selling, so that you understand the immense support that I have behind me that subsequently you will have behind you. But also understand that I am always the person. The reason I have all of that help is not so you deal with somebody else. You still deal with me. Like I am still the one that you're on the client call with. I'm still the one that you're texting properties to, that is managing your expectations on the market. I'm still the one taking you house hunting. I'm still the one leading the charge once we are in contract. Do I have people shuffling paperwork and sending things out to you for signature? Abso-fucking-lutely I do, because that is not the highest and best use of my time. My sellers out there, do I sit personally at your open houses? No, I do not. And it's not because I don't care about your listing, but anybody who can hand out an MLS sheet and read words off of a piece of paper can sit at an open house and make sure that people coming in aren't damaging or doing anything to the property that they shouldn't be doing. And that is the point of having an agent at an open house, is to supervise and monitor the property. What I am doing during your open house is having client calls or going out with people house hunting, potentially who might be interested in your property. I am doing things that only I can do, that as a business owner, as the top of the totem pole, that are the highest and best use of my time. Because who knows, that client call that I'm on during your open house could be someone getting here next week who happens to love your property. And I could then match you guys up. Or I could be taking someone out house hunting and your home is in their price range. And I say, hey, you didn't see this one on the MLS, but it's a listing of mine and it has an open house today. Let's swing by. So I just want to pull back the curtain a little bit on who everyone is, what they do, and then what I do. Because again, I can't do everything. I always tell people, when you go to KFC, Colonel Sanders is not behind there, not behind the fryer frying your chicken. When you go to KFC, Colonel Sanders is not frying your chicken. He had to give that secret recipe away to other people so that he could fry more chicken for more people. And that's definitely the space that a lot of entrepreneurs are in. And they have difficulty either letting go of that control. That was the problem with this agent that I tried to partner with. She is so overwhelmed. She has taken on too much. She maybe doesn't have great time management skills, and she's not willing to delegate. And that, yes, I've made mistakes in my business, but that is one thing that I have always known and been very good at, is being okay with parceling out tasks for the sake of continued growth. Because if you're not growing in business, you're dying. And that's very important. And I'm not done. I'm not done growing. I'm not done reaching. I'm not done trying to get my message out there and educate as many military families as possible. So a necessary sacrifice to achieve that goal is to now have Jenny, who is the transaction manager for my sellers. So if you are a seller, you will work with Jenny. She starts a group chat. She's going to send your listing agreement once you and I meet and I see your house and we discuss and decide on a sales price. She's going to do the paperwork and send that over to you. She's also going to send you our photo checklist, a seller checklist. She will be in the background doing things for the duration of your home selling experience. Now, for my buyers, Sean is my transaction manager. Sean is a prior Army captain who did SkillBridge with me and decided to stay on. Jenny lives in North Carolina. Sean lives in New Mexico. But that's okay because they don't need to be here to do those jobs. And honestly, with the time difference, it sort of feels like I go to bed at night and then in the morning when I get up, the real estate fairy has come because I fire off like tasks for them to do before I go to bed. And then by the time I wake up, it's done. So that's amazing. So if you're a buyer and you get the buyer broker agreement to sign or your purchase contract to sign or any of the documents you're receiving during the course of your transaction, Sean is the one behind the scenes getting those, talking to the seller's agent to schedule your home inspection, things like that. I then have another agent. His name is Kama. He attends my home inspections and he attends my final walkthroughs. He comes to day one of house hunting with me. As a matter of fact, as soon as I get done recording this podcast, we're going house hunting with a brand new family who just got on island yesterday. He comes to day one of house hunting with me so that you guys as buyers can meet him in person. That being said, I have a whole Canva slide that I send to my day one house hunters that explains to them, hey, in Hawaii, we take off our shoes. We do have a time schedule to keep to, so please understand we only have so long in each property. And yes, you can use the restrooms at the properties that we're in because for some reason that's like a common question that I get. And I just like to educate people on that ahead of time. And then in that slide, I also let you know as a buyer, hey, one of my agents who handles attending my home inspections and final walkthroughs for me is going to be joining us for day one of house hunting. So you can meet him and he can meet you. And, he's not a stranger when he comes to this appointment. And so that is kind of Kama and his role. He also attends like random appointments. Sometimes when buyers are in contract, they have family come to visit and the family wants to randomly see the house, which is fine and so exciting. And we are always more than happy to do that. But again, I can't be everywhere at one time, and I don't want to say no to those types of appointments. So that's why I have someone like Kama who can go to those things and report back to me if there's any questions or issues or things like that. And I've obviously trained all these people and they do things the way that I would do them, how I like them to be done. Kama also does video tours for me. I have a lot of people who house hunt before they get on island. And so if we need a video tour of a property, Kama will go make the video tour. He sits open houses for me as a licensed real estate agent. You do have to be licensed to sit at an open house. So I actually have several agents who are sort of in a queue to sit open houses for me because like tomorrow, as an example, I have 2 open houses. And even if I were to sit one of them, I can only be in one place at a time. So I do have people who sit my open houses. Landon is another one. Landon's job is to sit open houses and to put up signs and lock boxes and take down signs and lock boxes for my listings. So he and Jenny work together pretty closely, coordinating all of that stuff and making sure that we have coverage for all of our open houses. Also prior military. And then Victoria, who is my social media business manager, sort of Jill of all trades. She is actually going to be watching this and editing. She edits my podcast episodes. So shout out Victoria. She is really, a catch-all. Like anything I throw at this poor woman, she's like, got it, done, check. Literally behind the scenes, guys, like those tasks that I was talking about, like going to the store and buying the supplies for the gift bags, ordering the gift bags, ordering the towels, the magnets, the brochures, the keychains, the pens, the folders, like literally everything that you need to run a business that you don't think about. She is tracking it. She's ordering it. She's asking if we need more supplies. I can't even tell you, like Christmas gifts that we get for clients. The list is endless. She goes out house hunting with me sometimes to get content. She comes up with most of the content. It's a monumental undertaking what she does. That can be said of anybody on the team. So they all have their lanes, and basically all of those people doing everything that they do on a daily basis gives me the ability to do the things that only I can do. So I don't think that Victoria could hop on a client call and have the same response or give the same education that I could give. That is something only I can do. I need to make sure that my time as the owner and head of this brand and this business, I need to make sure my time is going to that. I do not think that Kama could take someone out house hunting and give them the same excitement and information and education and manage their expectations in the same way that I can. And maybe one day they'll prove me wrong, like who knows? But in this moment, that is how I genuinely feel. And those are the tasks that I want to prioritize. And while Victoria does respond to some comments online, if it's just like, if you comment PCS and you get a comment back that says like packet sent, that's probably Victoria. And she's going to send you the packet and you're going to respond, and then you probably will get me. Because when we have deeper conversations or more than just like surface level stuff, that is where I jump in. Because again, everyone that works on my team is monumentally skilled and very good at their job. But this brand was built on the back of my story. What made me successful, what made Clayton and I self-made millionaires. And every single person that comes into my sphere, that comes into my company, you deserve to get me. But you can't get me if I'm sitting behind a computer sending out home inspection documents. And that's what Sean does now. Or writing listing agreements, which is what Jenny does now. Or ordering office supplies, which is what Victoria does now. Or I'm out putting on signs and lock boxes, which is what Landon does now. So everybody on the team works together to make sure that you guys get the best version of me accessible to you as often as possible. And so truly, like, I mean this from the most genuine place. I cannot be more grateful or thank my team enough. And all of you guys should really, really be so grateful, because they allow me to be able to still be available to do this kind, even recording this podcast. Like, recording these podcasts takes time. You know, I don't want to look like a complete dirtbag. So like getting ready to film a podcast, making my notes, coming up with ideas, the filming them. Like this one, you guys, I have tried to record this podcast like 6 times. I've been sitting in this room doing take after take after take. You'll see the bloopers for it, I'm sure. Panda was in here earlier. It's not like I just sit down and this takes 10 seconds. It's time, and then Victoria gets it and edits it and works her magic. But really, to everyone on my team, to everyone who has stuck with me through the good, the bad, the ugly, the successes, the failures, literally, thank you all so much. And I haven't even touched on the most important partner that I have in my business, which is obviously Clayton, my husband. For those of you who haven't heard me talk about him, where have you been? Because I talk about him all the time. He served 22 and a half years in the Army. When he got out about 6 years ago, he took the time to become a mortgage broker. And now he works almost exclusively with my clients, which is so clutch because he's able to help you get pre-approved, use your VA loan, be a resource, not just for the VA loan and the lending and the finance side of things, but from a military perspective, he's here to be a resource for you as well. And it's also really nice because it means that every single property that we go to, or if you're remotely house hunting and you see a property that catches your eye and you're just like, damn, we're so curious, what would the payments be? I just take this MLS sheet, like here's one right here. I take this MLS sheet and I go right into our second upstairs living room and I say, Clayton, this is for the Smith family. What would their payments be? And he just writes down on this payment or on this paper what your payments would be. And he includes everything, the mortgage, the maintenance and association fees, the taxes, the insurance. So when people come at me sideways on the internet and they're like, people can't buy houses for within their BAH. I know they can because I have numbers for every single one of my clients before we even go look at the houses. Every house, when you go house hunting with me, every house that we step foot into, you're going to have this paper for. And on this paper is going to be the payments from Clayton. And if these payments are outside of your Hawaii entitlements, I'm going to have texted you beforehand and let you know, hey, this one is $100 over your entitlements. Do you still want to see it? You're going to know walking into every property that it is financially comfortable for you, which is huge. And really does save me a ton of time because now I'm never taking a client to a property that they then fall in love with that we then find out is not in budget. So even though Clayton isn't a realtor and isn't technically part of finding home, he is obviously an important and very, very, very much appreciated component to the Finding Home brand and allowing me what I do for all of you as consumers. So I think that is all the things that I want to kind of touch on. Again, I know this wasn't specifically real estate related in the same way that I normally talk about like buying and selling and appreciation and things like that. But if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur or anything like that, and you are having trouble scaling, or you don't know what that looks like, or you're having trouble letting go of tasks, I love to have those conversations because even if it's not investing in real estate, I think entrepreneurship is another way that we can invest in ourselves and stop. It's kind of like renting is paying someone else's mortgage. Working for someone else is just not as beneficial as working for yourself. Like it feels different. When I get up every day, I probably work more hours now than I did when I was in corporate America. But the hours I work now feel different than the hours that I worked then because I knew I was growing someone else's business. Was I being compensated well for that time? Yes, but I was still exchanging my time for money. And not that I'm not doing that now because I'm still giving my time to earn money for me and my family, but I'm doing it way more on my terms. And I'm growing something that's my own, that I have control of. And because we've invested in real estate so heavily the way that we have, if I decided that I wanted to hang this up tomorrow, which knock on wood, I do not, I am able to because we do have the passive income and investments that we've made using our tax-free entitlements with the military. Full circle, we're back to real estate, buy houses. When I'm done, when I want to step away from working like this or working as much as I do, I can because we have those investments that generate us passive income. So I hope this was helpful for all of my entrepreneurs, all of the business owners, all of the military spouses out there. I see you. I love your hustle. Don't stop working on growing your own business and your own brand. It is hands down one of the most rewarding things that I have done. And if you had asked me 15 years ago if I was going to be an entrepreneur and own my own business and have this level of success, I would have laughed you into oblivion. But here I am, and it's one of the most rewarding things that I've done. And I've gotten to meet some of the most amazing people, and I look forward to continuing to meet amazing people. So thanks, guys. As always, like, follow, subscribe. I wouldn't have any of this if it weren't for you. Bye, guys.